and today we're here with Jeff Thramann. He's the CEO of Audia, a publicly traded company that has provided innovative products and technologies to speed the change and create this new listening experience in a dynamic space. Now, the technologies that they've developed allow listeners to access audio content choices in a listening environment that enables personalization and control. Audia provides supplemental digital content that turns an audio-only experience into a deeper engagement. The company's vision is to fundamentally change how audio content is consumed. Jeff, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. And first of all, I'm an audiophile, and I do podcasting, so it's audio based, right? So already you've got my attention. And before we dive directly into what Audia is from your perspective, the one who founded it all, I'd like to know, did you start off in your adult life intending to launch a company, or were you trying to be an artist and then at some point you said to yourself, you know what, I'm going to go into business?
Yeah, my journey is actually pretty interesting. I've always been interested in the business side. I was very interested in biology and medicine when I was in high school, believe it or not. And I was very interested in engineering as well. So I've had all of these kind of broad interests, and I just kind of put one foot in front of the other and just kind of walked through life. And then whatever I saw that was interesting in front of me, I just went and did. And that's really my story, because it went from high school to going to West Point, to going in the Army, to deciding to be a doctor, to then med school, and then I became a brain surgeon, and I started a company around that, and that got me out of medicine into the business world, and so it just went all over the place.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you even served and did all, wow, this is amazing, man. So do you find that the discipline, and this is always a curiosity of mine, that discipline, did you have the discipline before you went into the Army, or did you find that being in the Army offered you tools of the mind that you were able to apply to achieve your goals in life?
Well, I always had some type of discipline where it came down to, let's say setting a goal and pursuing it, and that would be more, and prior to the Army, because I was so young, the only thing I really could put that in front of, that I could put forth for that, was really, how I performed in school, and just physical fitness in general, and the discipline to maintain that. So I always had that. What the Army gave me was really structure and principle. So I grew up on the streets in New Jersey, and principle was all over the place.
Yeah.
And but once I went up to West Point, the honor code that they instill in you, and that kind of integrity, is something that you wind up carrying with you the rest of your life. It's impossible not to. So it's that kind of principle and discipline that you get from there. A big thing they talk about up there is doing the harder right rather than the easier wrong, which is something that I teach my kids, and I think about, all the time in everything I do.
Hey, the hard right, meaning it's not always the easiest choice, but it's the right one, so get on it.
Exactly.
Okay. So in throughout this journey, Army, brain surgeon, you somewhere along the lines, you decide to launch Audia. Can you sort of explain to me how that comes to fruition, and then maybe a challenge you faced almost immediately that you had to overcome once you decided on this leg of your journey?
Yeah, so I was already out of medicine at this point, because within medicine I had invented this new way to help fuse the spine together along with a couple other folks, and we spun a big company up off of that. And the government has rules that if you're a surgeon and you have an ownership position in a private company where you can use those products on your patients, that's not allowed. So you got to pick one or the other. So I went the business route.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I mean, medicine was great, but I mean, honestly, for me, the best part about being a neurosurgeon was really the training, was learning how to do it. And then once you had it down, I went into private practice where you don't do as big, the big cases that you do in the academic center. So you don't have that as much excitement. So frankly, I mean, I kind of got bored with it. So I
Yeah.
was looking at, other things to do, and that's what branched me out. So when I started Audia, I was completely out of medicine, and I was essentially just driving down the road, and I heard an ad on the radio for an Ice Capades event that I was going to take my girls to, and with this, it was a Christmas show, and I never went. And I was thinking to myself, that's one of the problems with radio is you hear the ad, but you have to take all these extra steps to execute on it. So I just forgot about it. So I was thinking about that, and I thought, at the time, this was back in 2011, and I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, there should be a way I could use my smartphone and just press a button, sort of like Shazam, and get those tickets to the concert like right on my phone. And then I just go to the concert, show my phone, I'm good to go. And then I started thinking, because you didn't have really Spotify and Pandora and some of these other things coming out yet, I started thinking you just buy music right off of the radio. I mean, you don't have to go to iTunes, you just press the button, boom, radio sells it to you. So I was thinking about all these things, and the big thing that made me pull the trigger on it was I was talking to a radio advertiser, and he essentially said, listen, if you could build a platform where me as an advertiser, I could buy an on-air ad, and then I could get digital attribution as to who was interacting with that ad in real time when it played by them pressing, the button on their phone. He said that would be the holy grail of data. So we thought, okay, well, let's maybe this is worth doing. So I hired some engineers, and just to see if we could do it, because it's much different than Shazam, right? Shazam works off of a whole database of songs, very, very easy to kind of know what you're looking for. Here, you press that Shazam button, it doesn't even know what radio station you're listening to. So how does it figure that out and do all that? So these engineers, they were based out of Colorado here, and they did a phenomenal job. We were just figuring it out. And they were signal processing guys, and they did a great job of getting it to work. And we thought, okay, yeah, we can really make this happen. We were filing patents on it. So then I went to build the company, and I went out and got my first hire, which was really the CEO, and his name's Michael Lawless. So you mentioned that I was the CEO of Audia. I'm actually the founder and the executive chairman. Michael's the CEO. And I hired Michael in 2012, and he's been the CEO ever since, pushing it forward. But we did a big pivot, about 3 or 4 years ago, because we built that platform that we initially built we had about 580 radio stations on that platform. We got to know almost everybody in the industry. We had 1.6 million monthly active users. And we thought that was great. But when you're looking at a media that has 270 million people listening to it every month, and you only have 1.6 on your platform, you start to see pretty quickly that the streams that radio was putting out there were really not that compelling. And what we were doing is creating a digital feed that would correlate with everything on air, so people could just interact with whatever was on air, whether it was a song, a concert, a contest they were running, you could execute that on the app. So we started thinking, well, this is one of the problems. Now you have Spotify, now you have Pandora, you have these other capabilities out there, and all radio is doing is taking their standard product and putting it on a stream, right? And how compelling is that really for the user? And well, we were seeing it in real time, right? 270 million listeners and 1.6 million on the platform. So we thought, well, what could we do to make this more interesting? How do you make the stream more interesting? So we started playing around with some artificial intelligence technologies, and particularly Google's TensorFlow platform. And we started training it on the audio that was coming off of the radio stations. So we would essentially just teach it. We would say, okay, TensorFlow, this is a commercial. This is what a commercial sounds like. This is what a song sounds like. This is what a DJ talking sounds like. This is what a weather report sounds like. This is what a traffic report. And we started putting these things through the algorithms and tweaking them and playing around with them and getting the AI to really learn what each piece of content is. So now it can actually just listen to a radio station and knows when all the breaks are happening. And with that, we're now able to give people the opportunity to kind of control radio for the first time. It's no longer this one-to-many medium. It can be one-to-one, and it can be presented to consumers as a premium listening experience that radio doesn't have, but every other type of media has moved to that premium listening experience where you can pay a subscription and have a better product. So with Audia, that's essentially what we do. You are able to get all the radio stations in the country once we have it fully built out. Right now, we only have about, I think, 6, and we're adding another 10 this week or so. So we're just kind of crawling right now, but we hope to get to a point where we just light them all up and have everybody, and we're hoping to do that, pretty soon. And that's kind of what our investors are waiting for as well, for us to get to that point. But you get the radio station, and then you can personalize it. So you can, if they put something in front of you don't like, you can skip it. You can pause, you can rewind, you can fast forward. You can program it so that when it goes to commercials, you can just continue playing music. You can go to these big list of content choices, and you can pick all kinds of content that you would prefer to hear during your radio listening session. And this could be things like maybe you're interested in local concerts. So when local concert stuff comes up, you get that. I'm out in Boulder, Colorado, so I might want to hear the snow report up at Vail and Breckenridge. If you're out there, if you're out in California, I mean, maybe you want to hear a surf report coming in while you're listening to your stations, get stock updates, whatever it is, whatever content it is that you like, you can pull that in and have it come in. And it doesn't all have to cover the commercials, right? If you're in the market for to refinance your home, you can let the home refinance commercials through and just block everything else. So it's really whatever you want radio to be. And that's kind of where we're heading.
Love that. I love that specifically because actually just last night, I'd thrown on some classical music on my Amazon Echo or whatever. And then I was like, oh, but I have to stream it through my Spotify. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I haven't been to the LA Philharmonic in so long. How do I get tickets? And I had to download an app. And it was all these things like you're talking about just to get that to happen. And then I'm in my car sometimes and I'm looking at the standard operating system in a car that sort of like it has like a Pandora radio at most, right? And you're sitting there and you're like, okay. So then you plug your phone in and suddenly it has like a car app from the phone itself. But imagine, I can actually see this, and this is just me brainstorming, spitballing here. I can actually see Audia being sort of and this is like a native OS that's optional that people can install into even their cars because it has the screens now. And let's say I'm driving and yeah, you're right. I would actually happily listen to ads if it told me, oh, in order to continue listening to the next 60 seconds, you can choose from any one of these sponsors, right? So now you have a bunch of sponsors like, oh, what kind of ads would you love to listen to? Well, I'm always on the lookout for music tickets, right? So I'd be happy to listen to that. Or I'm always on the lookout for home refinancing or like all that. And so then the next time I'm going to listen to the next hour or so, I'm like, oh, I could totally choose between listening to house ads or this or that. I actually want to listen to like education ads. What kind of schools are out there, right? So then I choose those and I'm listening and I'm like, oh, cool. And then it jumps in some music and then it has like a little script app that pops up and it's like, would you like to buy tickets to this? Like all of that. Yes.
Exactly.
I would say yes to all of that.
That's where we're really heading. And, because we think with the explosion of audio that's going on, right? When you're talking to an Alexa speaker or you're asking it for something, it's not like print where you can get 50 things back and you can quickly go through them. They got to give you one choice.
Yeah.
Right? It's got to be something that's interesting to you. So somebody's got to, so the curation of content and the programming of what they put in front of you is to become more and more important. And local content is to become more and more valuable and accessible. And when you really look at the whole ecosystem of content, from the audio side, nobody has local content. It's all this nationalized stuff. I mean, SiriusXM, nationalized stuff, no local stations. You go to Pandora, Spotify, it's all national playlists. There's nothing really local there. And when you really think about, well, who has this local content? Some podcasters are starting to do it. But for the most part, it's completely owned by radio. And they, way back in the day when it was just radio and TV and print, they had the margin to be able to invest into that capability. So they spent their money essentially investing in the assets that are required to be integrated into the local communities. And they distributed themselves throughout the country. So that's really what radio is. there's a big negative going on in radio right now with the aggregation, with the iHearts and the Odysseys, and they're trying to standardize it and cut it out. And then you have all these independent broadcasters. I mean, there's this thing out there called the Independent Broadcasters Association that we're working with 1,500 radio stations on it, which is bigger than, from a station count perspective, than anybody else out there by almost a factor of 2. But
Wow.
these are really the smaller broadcasters that are in there really looking for that local content and putting it out there instead of trying to standardize, the whole playlist and everything else. So we focus on radio because we think local content is really important. And we think radio has the best infrastructure and capability, the skill set, the people to go out and interface with the community and understand what the stories are that people want to tell. And when you give them a platform on a premium side where they're getting subscription, because on the subscription side, broadcasters can make about 2x what they make on the ad side. I mean, there's always going to be an ad model, right? And it's going to be the biggest model. And, we project maybe getting, 7 to 10% of the audience, over to our platform, but you can't argue with the power of free, right? So that's always going to be there, and that's always going to be big, and it's going to be ad supported. But there's a premium capability there that's very lucrative. And what's the best about it is it allows the broadcasters to have a high margin recurrent revenue stream, which is more valuable than an ad stream, which can go up and down, at least from the Wall Street perspective and the investor perspective. So they get this revenue, and then they can reinvest that into their product, right? They can hire better talent on the morning shows. They can go out and create things about local artists and additional programming. They can make it more interesting, which then by itself drives more people to their main product, which is the ad supported model. But at the same time, people can select out of that and pay for the premium service.
This is epic. I mean, just the implications and your understanding of how to, as an entrepreneur, create more jobs, be more useful to more people. You cross you check off all the boxes on what it means to be an entrepreneur at its rawest form. And the actions and the ambition that you're taking, as the show is about, it's all aligned. And I just have to ask, how did you, when you wake up, do you prime yourself to sort of be able to manage and deal with a task and a project this monumental? Because you made the right choice by jumping on the radio wave, which has the infrastructure to scale any product that's smart enough to actually leverage it in this modern day and age. And to your credit, nobody has. No one has the way that you're looking at it. So do you prime yourself, or what do you do to really get yourself to be able to face the day head on? Is it relying on good people like Michael, like you mentioned? What's the word?
Oh, you can't do anything without people. And anybody who's accomplished anything significant will tell you that. We have a long way to go before we're able to change anything. And the people are going to be a big part of that. But I immerse myself in these things. My favorite thing to do, honestly, is to try to come up with things that are new and different. And that's what got me into all of these different spaces that I'm in. I'm a prolific inventor. I have north of 50 patents to my name and all kinds of different things. But it's just the way I work and the way I think and what I find exciting, right? So I'm blessed to be able to pursue this existence every day of going down the road and doing that. It's not to say it isn't without its stresses, because I put a lot of money into my own companies, right, and my own effort. I kind of lead from the front, from the investor standpoint, so that everybody's aligned, and that creates a lot of stress. And going up to our recent IPO, I mean, that was, whether that was going to work or not work, was a big stressor. And the first time we were going for the IPO, we were scheduled to really make a run at it. It was the third week of March 2020, the week that everything shut down for COVID, and we were done. We were dead in the water, and our investors stepped up to get us through that. And, against all odds, we were able to make it to the public markets and get the capital we need to really deploy and really the access to capital that we need to take this thing to the next level. Because we have a big play on the podcast side too.
Yes.
Both of our products, one is Audia and the other product is Vodacast, which brings a lot of our capability to the podcasting space.
I would love to check that out specifically because, you know, bravo to the investors really pulling through. They know what they're looking at. This, it not only is a great investment, it needs to happen for society and culture to move forward. That's how important I believe personally a product and a project like this is to, as somebody in the space themselves. And I've noticed that there's a lot of challenges in the podcasting world that need to be solved, like discoverability and curation. That's like the number one, right? It's just not there yet. You can't, the same way that somebody can Shazam something, you can't Shazam a podcast, right? And worst of all, is part of the brilliance or the reason why people love listening to podcasts is that there's like moments that they found really interesting. And there's like apps trying to, there's one I found actually yesterday called Memento that sort of will catch that snippet for you. And then there was, and it'll like document it and keep it in an archive, right? But it's not integrated to be able to then share publicly and sort of create this, like, this is who I am and these are the most important things I found, which would be great for podcasters, right? Then there's this beta, Sam Rukeyser, this kid from, I think it was Harvard, tried to make something called air quotes, where you could do that specifically, like you could take that snippet that you were listening to, it's a podcast listener, and you could share it via Twitter. And then I don't know what happened. It fell off. Like I was so excited about that. So there are people who are trying, but they're not doing it. But if you take this audio technology concept that you're putting into play, think of what it can do for the podcasters who, like you said, are technically advertisers with a slant on interesting content for, you know, informational purposes, educational purposes. So that would be cool, because then the podcasters have the opportunity to sit there and say, you know, I've got a few people I'm working with. I've got Squarespace, I've got ZipRecruiter, and a few other people who have hired me. If you're looking for jobs, then these are the ads you want to listen to. Otherwise, you can click here, and these are some other cool people who, you know, have awesome gear for the fashionistas out there, or just like being able to offer that kind of interactivity and personalization. No one's going to be mad at ads. But that's the whole problem with ads, is that they're constantly saying that they're personalizing, but it really is to the person who had the best, who won the raffle and developing the best content to win the little gamble that then gets them to the front page, or and you know, that's a whole science and people are spending money on that, but it's not personalized. I still get ads for things and I'm like, that's not even me. I interviewed somebody who was that company, but like, so that's why I'm saying it's such a monumental project. But I'm so relieved to hear that someone of your caliber with as many patents and the, I want to say, the energy and enthusiasm behind it. That's the most important part, because it sounds like you're going to get it done one way or another with
Oh yeah, no.
kind of energy. You know what I mean? So like for me, that's exciting as a consumer, because I actually have a hard time understanding my own consumption habits, because they're different from most people. Like I want to listen to a podcast or read a book or even an audio book in that same format, in that world, and to be able to library and like archive certain parts and this and that. And none of that is out there, because most people are doing, you know, just pop music and hip hop, and a lot of that is cool. And you know, they sell you a car commercial and that's it. And I just think it can be better. And I'm so glad somebody else thought the same thing and said, but I can also do something about it. And that is what I'm so pumped about, is that, Jeff, you've been able to step up to the plate and do that. So for me, you said that the 2020 was hard when that all happened and you launched, but you've clearly been able to stay on board. Your investors came through. What does the future hold, and what should the listener know to help continue supporting this to become a reality?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the early stages of really getting this out in front of consumers. So we just started our first beta pilots, where we'll, and I don't know if they're really beta pilots. They're our first broadcasters that are coming onto the platform, right? And they're out there and they're promoting this to their listeners. And it started with a group down at Lakes Media. There's a guy there by the name of Tom Birch who owns that radio station group, and he loved what we were doing, so he jumped on board and has been pushing it out there and helping us kind of tweak that around. And then we brought another 5 or so additional broadcasters on, and we're just starting to get our first data as to how we're performing, you know, with the consumer. And there's a lot of product work we still need to do, right? We need to get all of these stations activated. So that happens once we have our artificial intelligence technology working as well against what I call unseen stations. These are stations where the AI hasn't trained on, where it works as well against unseen stations as it does on stations that it's already seen. So there's certain areas there where we're rock solid, like music, for instance. The AI is close to 100%. And then there's other areas where you have like a DJ talking and discerning that from an ad. That gets a little harder. So we need to put more data into that, and we're working on a couple of techniques to build that up and get that going. But we're going to get there because we see the trajectory of the accuracy, and we're not far from where we need to be before we can activate all stations. And then once we do that and we put them on the platform, then that's where we can really push this out. So right now we're running the app at about it's a $5.99 price after the first 30 days. We expect to drive that up to around the $12 range.
Totally.
That's where the pricing kind of played out in a big survey we did with the Harris Polling folks. But anybody who comes in early, when we recognize the product's not there yet, those people lock in on that price, as long as they subscribe, forever.
I'm about it. A radio station out here in LA that's really local and is always into some hip stuff, and they're always playing such cool music that I've never heard, is KCRW. Not sure if you're familiar with the Los Angeles stations, but they're a part of a community college as well, so they have a lot of interns, and I would bet money that they would love to be a part of a project like this. I've got to find a way to somehow make that happen, just because that's exciting. And you can count me in on anything beta. I love pushing the needle forward, and I understand the need for support from that. It's totally worth it to me, especially because in the end, it'll eventually put me in a position to truly enjoy the benefits of the fruits of that labor. Editing audio and things of that nature that I've done for like 5-6 years, helping launch podcasts. I don't know anything about AI. Okay, I've interviewed people who are way smarter than me on it, such as yourself, and so many more. So, but I imagine, wouldn't it be cool to be able to use, if the distinction is the problem, what if we create a culture or a standard practice of certain audio chimes that come in before? And forgive me for just jumping in. I'm just so excited about this. Like one audio chime, like the way when you start a computer and it makes the patented whatever sounds that come out, and you're like, that's my MacBook starting, or that's my Windows starting, something like that. So the AI can then know, oh, there's about to be a DJ or some kind of a host speaking, and then another chime or transition sound, and it could even be silent on the back end. That then indicates that there's going to be a commercial or something. Something like that might also be a way that, and this is just coming from somebody who's edited audio, and the way I understand sequencing may happen. But then again, I don't know anything about AI or machine learning, so I'm not sure if it carries over. But sometimes they say the solution that you're looking for may be in an industry outside of the one that you're in. And so I hope in any way that's in an effort to sort of push it forward, because I'm so excited about it. That would be amazing, man, because I can't wait. I really can't. I want to introduce you to people that I've met specifically because how many people this could benefit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll be looking for all that support as you really start pushing out.
So now I have 2 more questions for you, okay, as we begin to close this out, because I wasn't even paying attention. I was so excited about the time here. You're a good one, man. Number 1, where should people who are interested about this go to sign up, and also to follow you and learn more about the company?
Yeah, just go to our website, www.audia.com. We're in the process of revamping that, but you can get a good idea of what we're doing there. And that's kind of like a splash page just for the Audia app. And then to learn more about it, there's a tab there to meet the company, and you can dig in further there.
Got it. And do they have links to like your LinkedIn or Michael's LinkedIn or anything so you can be in touch?
All of that stuff should be on there.
Okay, cool.
Otherwise, I don't spend that much time on the website, but
otherwise we can just look up Jeff Thramann, and hopefully we find you online. I'm sure you have a footprint at some point.
Yeah, there's not a lot of me's out there, so Thramann isn't a common last name. So,
and then for the listener, Audia is AUDDIA, so it's WD. And now
it's a mixture between audio and media.
I love that. And now I have a question I've asked everyone who stops by the show to indulge me in, and you're welcome to, but you're also welcome to pass. And that is, if you could have invited anybody to join us today, dead or alive, and explore this journey and this conversation with us for whatever benefits or consequences, who would it be and why?
Boy, yeah, that's a That's a tough question.
I mean, there are people who have said my mom, grandparents, kids, Elon Musk, Oprah, Alexander the Great. But it's always curious to me who someone says what, and you can choose more than one. Like, you're not tapped
Sure.
to one. It's who would you invite? Seriously, you could even be like, oh, if I had this council of these four people, I like, Mr. Firestone, Carnegie, and if I knew that, Think and Grow Rich type people, like if I knew that they were at the helm in this conversation, what it would do, those kind of things.
Yeah, I think the problem for me is, I mean, the people that I would invite, nobody would have ever heard of.
I would love to learn though. This is the opportunity to teach us that these are people
Well,
we should know about.
I like people that are really interesting and perhaps controversial, and you don't know what they're actually going to say. Because for me, it's about interest, and what's going to happen. So if I had to say one person that I would invite to a thing like this, where I think it would be the most bang for my buck, I would invite this guy. He was an old business partner of mine down in Phoenix, Arizona, by the name of Michael Gregory. And I would invite Michael to this conversation. And he would be, and the main reason would be, you would see some perspectives and some insights, and you would hear some remarks that would be completely unexpected, but valuable. Great insight and a completely different perspective on everything.
Absolutely.
And very successful in his own right. I mean, he runs a company down in Arizona that provides hospitalist physicians to hospitals throughout the country. I think his doctors take care of like one out of every 3 admissions, in the country. But he started all out in rural hospitals where they just didn't have this capability, and he would fly in himself and arrange those teams and build it out. And just a really unique guy with a different perspective. So I always like his inputs on various things that I do.
Shout out to Michael Gregory, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Jeff Thramann, it has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you. Brief though it was, as I always say, it was worth it. And I want to invite the listener again to check out Audia, and look up Jeff Thramann. That's Thramann. And you can't lose by getting involved in this. The subscription it literally costs nothing. And knowing that you're supporting something that's going to literally change the fabric of culture as we know it once it's fully fleshed out. Because let's face it, even I still listen to the radio, and I'm always hoping that it was more. And then I switch over to an app because I'm like, man, it's almost there, but it's not. It hasn't been touched. And that's why entrepreneurs do what they do. They move things forward because they know that it needs to be done, and also because they can't help themselves.
Exactly. It's been a great challenge, and you're absolutely right. I mean, incredible space, and we're happy to be here, and very happy to have this conversation today.
Jeff, thanks for stopping by.